If you chance to read Swami Vivekananda's lectures, particularly the lectures that he delivered in India, you will find that he is exhorting the Indians to do heavy work. He says you will understand Vedanta better by playing football than studying Gita. These things would have sounded sacrilegious, but he's absolutely correct. To be able to latch on to noble ideas, you need to have physical strength, you have to have manliness. And that manliness comes only through heavy work. Unless you have worked very, very, very hard, you can't have that manliness. Unless you have that manliness by which, something like a lion is caged, kept in a circus or kept in a zoo, and it breaks free by sheer strength. Unless you have that strength, and that strength comes only through work, only through yajna. That is giving up. You have acquired and you say, here I give up. Here I give up. Monks are respected in India only because they have mastered the art of sacrifice. They sacrifice. Karma Yoga teaches you sacrifice. Karma teaches acquisition. Whenever you are acquiring anything, it's karma. But then there are writers, as we shall see, says, actually, India has always faced the problem of laziness. Indians have been traditionally lazy, and we discussed in the previous talk also that this is the bane of Indian society. Nobody wants to work. And today things have become so bad, it's unbelievable. They just don't want to work. And barest of bare. If you just ask them, request them to do something that will make them move their limbs a bit, they won't work. This has been the bane of Indian society, and that's why the Western world, by sheer dint of its discipline and hard work, they have moved forward. And we Indians, we have been waiting for the coming revolution. Communists dream of coming revolution, and Indians think of coming of the prophet. We think Avatar will come and he will set things right for us, and communists think that next revolution is coming and everything will change. Neither the revolution comes nor the prophet comes, and we continue to be as beggarly as we were. Sri Krishna comes and says work. Swami Vivekananda comes and says work, but we won't work. We want all the pay, we want all the perks, we want all the off days, but work, no. And even if I work, I'll work just the routine thing. If it needs some extra work, I won't do. So, why Karma Yoga is important? This is what Lord says in the 5th verse. Nahi kasyat kshanavapi jatu tishtatya karma krit karyate yavasa karma sarva prakriti jai gunai. This universe is combination of consciousness and energy, popularly known as Chit and Jada, consciousness and energy. Universe means energy. Energy means motion. Energy entails motion. It's not potential energy. Energy is kinetic. This world is in not inertia of rest, it's in inertia of motion. By its very nature, everything in this universe is in motion. Everything is working. And says that there can never be a person who can actually be without work. Work you will have to do. And later it will be explained further. So, it's just not possible. Since we are the product of Prakriti, nature, and nature is about energy, we are by nature energetic. We are being pushed and pulled by in the ocean of energy. If you think of a choppy ocean where the waves are going up and going down, and we are those wave riders, we may be so accustomed to those motion that we forget that we are in motion. Like when there is a train moving at a constant speed, we forget that we are moving. So even when we are just sitting idle, we forget that we are in motion. How? If not anything, you are breathing. If not anything, you are thinking. If not anything, your blood is moving within you. Motion will always be there. There can never be, there's just no possibility that we can ever be at rest. It's just not possible. And because we cannot be at rest, we can never be at peace. Just not possible. Nobody can be ever at peace. Only a person who has realized his self, who is established in his self, can be at peace. Why? Because he knows that he is beyond all this motion. Karyate yavasha karma. Everybody is forced by his nature. It's in our nature. The way it's in the nature of fire to burn. It's in the nature of things to behave the way they are. We human beings, or rather, any living being by nature is into motion. And not only living being, apparently the inert things like stone, they are also continuously in motion. We would never have known all this, If 100 years ago, when Swamiji was in America and when Swamiji was explaining these ideas of Gita, I wonder how those Americans had taken these ideas of Gita, that when you say that everything in this universe is in motion and everything is said, okay, here is this piece of rock, here is my pain, here it is. How come it is in motion? How come it is working? Now we know through electron and proton that actually whole thing is in continuous motion. And the facts about electron, proton, neutron, etc. came much later after Swamiji had left. But see, we Hindus, we Indians, we have known this truth for last 4,000, 5,000 years. And suddenly the Western world has woken up to these facts. We have all long known that this entire universe is a product of Prakriti, of nature. And nature by its very character is Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna. We will be discussing this when we come to 14th chapter, etc. And we discussed a bit in the second chapter. So by nature, by its very nature, the nature is in motion. And everything that's a product of that nature is in motion. Nothing can ever be at rest. So if somebody thinks that he can be at rest simply because he has become a monk, he is fooling himself, he is fooling the world. And so the Lord speaks very strongly against such persons, these lazy monks, these lazy spiritual persons. Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste mansa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sauchyate. The fake guru, the fake Baba, what he does? He doesn't work. He sits idle. Apparently he is like a Sthita Pragya, as we discussed in the previous chapter. He is like a great sage. And he is good only at speaking. He won't work. But mentally he is continuously cogitating over all the pleasurable things of the world. I should have money, I should have fame, I should have this, I should have that. But physically he won't do anything. So physically he is posing as somebody who is a Sthita Pragya. Physically he is posing to be a great saint. And mentally he is working like the most obsessed. It says, Indriyarthan Vimudhatma. So such a person, and Acharya Shankar uses very strong words for such persons. He is a hypocrite. He is a sinner. And he is a liar. Such persons are not to be tolerated. This is what Shankaracharya says. This highest state of Brahma Jnani, one who knows Brahman, who knows that I have nothing to achieve in this world, I have nothing to lose in this world. Even if you cut his head off, he is not bothered, because he knows that he is not this body, he is not bothered. If you give him something to eat, he is happy. If you don't give him something to eat, he is happy. He is happy in every condition. it's near impossible to be a saint. But if somebody is some lesser model, tries to copy that saint and says, well, that great saint never worked, why should I work? Perfectly all right. Sit quietly. But your mind is racing. It's racing fast. And if you try to make somebody sit quietly, forcibly, you will find that his mind will be racing faster. This is a child. He's very active, and you just make the child sit for a while. And if you ask the child, he will not be able to contain his thoughts anymore. Because mind tends to race very fast if it cannot work out through the body, through the organs. Your mind has to be trained to sit quietly. You can't be yogi in a day. So somehow you induce this thought of being quiet for a while. You sit quietly, but you realize that your mind is racing. You want to enjoy the world, you want to do this, you want to do that. Shri Krishna labels such persons as hypocrites, liars, cheaters. So that was the 6th verse, and in the 7th, the Lord talks about, says, Yastu indriyani mansa niyamya arabhyate arjuna karmendriye karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. Saint is just the reverse. What he does is, he controls his mind and lets his organs work. His mind is totally focused on God, on higher truths, and lets his mind work. He is a saint. An ordinary person, that means those typical Indian saints, they would sit quietly but will go on thinking of worldly achievements with his mind. A saint, his mind is always contemplating on God. And he lets his organs work. Now this again gives another kind of hypocrisy. Sometimes, some people, some Vedantis will say that, see, my mind is calm, but with a calm mind I am doing this. So sometimes they will be involved in sex scandals, and they will say that, I am not doing anything. It's organs working on organs. These are plain hypocrisies, nothing more than that. Whenever you see a monk, whenever you see a saint surrounded by wealth and surrounded by females, directly, indirectly, in the name of some trust, this, that, know that there is something wrong with him. So it says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajaya karmana sharir yatra pichate na chate na prasiddher akarmana. Arjuna, be active. Even your body will not function unless you work. That means eating, drinking, sleeping, winking, all these things, and breathing. You are working. Even when you say that you are completely sitting idle, you will be working. So if there is a choice between non-work and work, choose work. Actually, in brief, the idea of Karma Yoga says, normal people work passionately for their own benefit. From there, slowly they reach Karma Yoga stage where they work for their self-improvement. And from there, they reach the state of worklessness where their mind is fixed on God. And below, on the other side, is lazy fellows who don't work. So there is laziness, there is activity, there is Karma Yoga, and finally Sthita Prajna. So ultimately, if you sum up this Karma Yoga theory, it can be summed up in 4 stages. First one is inert people, lazy people, worthless people. Be they monks, be they householder. Second are obsessed people who are working for their own gain. They are far better than these lazy people. And above them are those people who work only for self-improvement, with a clear idea of what they want from life by way of ideal. So for example, there are soldiers who are fighting and dying at the border. They have an ideal. They may be getting salary and they may be getting recognition, but actually they have become inclusive. They are dying for an ideal. So when you are working for an ideal, when you are laboring for an ideal, that's a higher state. We will be discussing more of it in the next verses. And last stage is when that idea of doing some work drops away. Your mind becomes calm. Your mind is always in God consciousness. And whether you work at that stage or you don't work, that makes no difference. And this is what we discussed in last section of the second chapter, Sthita Pragya Lakshana. So that was the 8th verse where it says that if there is a choice between non-work and work, always opt for work, because it will cleanse your system of the things, of the dirt that has accumulated over past births.